ladies and gentlemen. We are here today within very difficult times, and it is my honor and privilege to join my colleague, the chairman of NESG, to welcome you to the 26th Nigeria Economic Summit. This summit, a two-day annual event organized by the Nigeria Economic Summit Group, working in partnership with the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget, and National Planning. This partnership has sustained over time and has become a model for PPPs in Nigeria. Let me express our sincere gratitude to His Excellency, President Muhammadu Buhari, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for personally attending last year's event, and also for asking His Excellency the President, the Vice President, to represent him in this year's summit. We are grateful for your leadership, sirs. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, since the inception of this summit 25 years ago, it has become one of the largest annual gatherings dedicated to finding solutions to the challenges facing our country and finding ways of achieving a prosperous and an egalitarian society. The engagement over the years has helped in shaping policies of government, particularly in the power sector reforms, agricultural sector transformation, amongst others. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the important successes of the summit over the years is the consolidation of the dialogue and discussion between the private and public sectors on contemporary and socio-economic issues affecting the nation. The theme of this summit was deliberately chosen to emphasize the urgency to strengthen multi-stakeholder alliances between government and business in co-creating national strategies that will usher Nigeria into the decade of action. Permit me to say that going forward, the federal government of Nigeria, in partnership with the NESG, has been working together in implementing the national development plans and, by extension, the regional and global development plans. In order for us to ensure realization of our continental as well as global aspirations, deliberate efforts have been put in place to ensure effective alignment with the successor plans that are being developed as we speak. At this juncture, let me also state that this administration is fully aware of the current economic situation and is working round the clock to reverse the trend and restore the economy on the path of sustainable, inclusive growth. To achieve this, government had developed an economic sustainability plan to cushion the effect of the COVID-19 pandemic and is already vigorously implementing these policies that are aimed at stabilizing the economy. The principles behind the ESP is: one, taking action to stimulate the economy by preventing business collapse through ensuring liquidity. Two, retaining and creating jobs through support to labor-intensive sectors such as agriculture and direct labor interventions. Three, undertaking growth-enhancing and job-creating infrastructure investments in roads, rails, bridges, solar power, as well as communications technologies. Four, promoting manufacturing and local production at all levels and advocating the use of made in Nigeria goods and services, as well as creating job opportunities. Five, achieving self-sufficiency in critical sectors of our economy and curbing unnecessary demand for foreign exchange, which puts pressure on the exchange rate. And six, extending protection to the very poor and vulnerable groups, including women, persons living with disabilities, through proper spending. So although we are facing very difficult times, I must say that some progress is being made. On Friday, as reported by my colleague, the National Bureau of Statistics released our third quarter GDP report. This GDP report, which measures economic growth, has indicated that the Nigerian GDP has declined by minus 3.62%. In real terms, that is in the third quarter, following a much larger contraction of minus 6.1% in the second quarter of 2020. Following the traditional definition, this means that Nigeria is technically in a recession. So we've entered our second recession over the past 5 years. This recession is clearly induced by the impact of COVID-19 and the national response that we have taken to contain the spread of the pandemic and its manifestation across several sectors is showing in the results of the second quarter. So for the third quarter, for the 3 quarters combined for 2020, the aggregate GDP decline is minus 2.69% year-on-year. This is a clear signal that the Nigerian economy is improving, that there are economic activities that are doing better than previous quarter, and there are 17 economic activities that have recorded positive growth in the third quarter compared to 13 in the second quarter of 2020. At the same time, there are also 36 out of 46 economic activities that have done better in the third quarter of 2020 than in the second quarter of 2020. The oil sector was largely responsible for the slowdown in the economic activity in this third quarter, as it recorded a very sharp contraction of minus 13.89%, the largest decline in this quarter in the past 14 quarters. The slowdown in global economic growth and oil demand consequent upon COVID-19 pandemic, as well as our obligations to meet OPEC cuts, were principally responsible for the slowdown in the oil and gas sector. Like the oil and gas sector, the non-oil sector also contracted in the third quarter of 2020. However, the decline in the non-oil sector by minus 2.51% year-on-year in the third quarter was significantly better when compared to the contraction of minus 6.05% in the second quarter of 2020. By broad sectors, agriculture remains resilient despite reported floods across some states, as well as the impact of the COVID-19 and also the non-COVID-19 production bottlenecks. The sector still remains resilient. The agricultural sector recorded a slightly slower but still positive year-on-year growth at 1.39% compared to 1.58% in the second quarter of 2020. On the other hand, industry recorded a decline of minus 6.12%, doing much better than the 12.05% recorded in the second quarter of 2020. Similarly, services also followed the same pattern of negative but better performance in the third quarter compared to the second quarter, recording a contraction of minus 5.49% in the third quarter compared to a decline of minus 6.79% in the second quarter. In the non-oil sector, the impact of the COVID-19 restrictions continued to be felt most significantly on the transport sector as well as on accommodation services, but also including education and the trade sector. Overall, the most negatively affected economic activities in the third quarter, though better than the second quarter, are oil refinery, transportation, accommodation and food services, insurance, education, crude oil and gas, real estate, and trade. Nevertheless, some activities also demonstrated strong resilience, and these activities include quarrying and other minerals production, telecommunication services, cement manufacturing, financial institutions, chemicals and pharmaceuticals, food and beverage manufacturing, and public administration, as well as broadcasting construction. Human health services and social services also improved, in addition to agriculture. We've also seen improvement in motion pictures, sound recording, as well as courier services. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the third quarter GDP performance, though a contraction, was much better than was expected, following earlier observed slowdown in quarter one and quarter two. And this also, judging by the experience of several other countries, including advanced countries and emerging economies, is a very good and positive development. So while the decline of minus 3.62% in the third quarter is unfavorable, it is much better than the minus 6.01% earlier forecasted by the MBS. This outturns from several domestic and international forecasts. Furthermore, this COVID-19-induced recession follows the pattern across the world, where many countries have entered similar economic recessions. Let me remind us that before the impact of COVID-19, the Nigerian economy was experiencing sustained growth, which has been improving quarter by quarter for 3 years until the second quarter of 2020, when the impact of the COVID-19 was felt. Other countries already in recession, like Nigeria, excluding China, include Australia, Belgium, Canada, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Hungary, Ireland, Italy, Latvia, Lithuania, Mexico, Netherlands, Norway, Romania, Russia, Spain, UK, and the United States of America. So Nigeria is not alone in this. But I will say that Nigeria has outperformed all of these economies that I mentioned in terms of the record of the negative growth of the third quarter 2020. Most of these countries have also recorded contractions, much deeper than the Nigerian economy. It is also expected, for example, that South Africa, that recorded a decline of minus 50% compared to Nigeria's minus 6.1% in the second quarter, will also record a deeper negative growth in the third quarter. While the economy has entered into recession in this third quarter, the trend of the growth suggests that this will be a short-lived recession, and indeed, by the fourth or at worst the first quarter of 2021, that the country will exit recession. The National Bureau of Statistics had earlier on forecasted that Nigeria will close with a negative growth of minus 4.4%. But the third quarter performance shows that this trend will not be so. Let me also remind us that the 2016 recession lasted for 5 quarters. And if trends continue, the current recession may just last for 1 quarter. Our expectations of a quick exit, which will be historically fast, is anchored on the several complementary real sector and monetary interventions that have been proactively introduced by government to forestall a far worse decline of the economy and alleviate the negative consequences of the pandemic. While there is always a lag between intervention and outcome, we can already see the benefits on the economy as recorded in this third quarter GDP report. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to remind us that these are difficult times and that the government had to take some very difficult decisions. There are some reforms that have been taken that could not be taken for years. And while we recognize that things are very difficult, let us encourage the people that are working on these reforms so that they can have the strength to continue. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say that even though we are not out of the woods, and given the adverse impact of COVID-19, we have to continue to work together to implement the measures to get our economy back on track. As part of the effort towards making this year's summit result-oriented, it has been structured to include plenaries, briefings, workshops, and collabs, as well as deliberations, which will be underpinned by 3 pillars, as mentioned by the chairman of the NESG: collaboration, execution, and impact. These pillars will run through all the sessions of the summit, with strong emphasis on reinforcing the role of the subnational governments as the frontiers of economic growth and development as we build a more inclusive and sustainable economy. The sub-themes of the summit have also been designed to include deliberation on mapping the picture, new trends, new opportunities, new horizons, embracing technology and innovation, and building resilience and charting the path to recovery. Before I close, let me conclude the part of the national anthem, starting from where my colleagues stopped. In love and honesty to grow, where peace and justice shall reign.